Listen up, here's a truth that'll rattle you. Some of the best love stories start with a fight you'd bet on ending in blood. Picture this, two people, Damien and Diana, dragged to the altar, kicking and screaming, bound by rivalry so fierce it could have burned the church down. You'd think it's a nightmare, right? Wrong. What if I told you that hate, yeah, the kind that makes your fists clench, can flip into a love so deep it shocks everyone, even them? This isn't your sappy rom-com, it's a raw, real roller coaster that'll hook you fast. Curious how enemies turn into soulmates? Stick around, you're about to see something unexpected unfold. They stood at the altar, two strangers bound by a twist of fate no one expected. Damien Blackwood's jaw tightened as the priest droned on, his dark eyes burning with a shock that mirrored the crowd's whispers. Duty had dragged him here, some unholy mix of family legacy and a deal with the devil he couldn't escape. Across from him, Diana Redford clutched her bouquet like a weapon, her forced marriage to this man a bitter pill she'd never swallow willingly. You won't believe how fast it all unraveled. One minute, they're rivals clawing at each other's throats, the next, they're saying, "I do," for reasons neither fully grasped. What happens next? Well, it's a lesson in how passion can hide beneath the strangest disguises. The guests shifted uncomfortably, sensing the unspoken rivalry turned romance, or at least, the potential for it. Damien's tailored suit couldn't hide the tension in his shoulders, a silent scream against this marriage of convenience. Diana, radiant in white, looked more like a warrior than a bride, her gaze daring anyone to call this sweet love. It wasn't. It was revenge dressed up in lace and promises, a slow-burn romance neither wanted to admit might be brewing. Imagine being stuck in a contract you hate, like that job you took just to pay the bills, except here, the stakes were lifelong vows. The air crackled with forbidden passion, hinting at battles yet to come. No one expected this union to last past the reception, let alone spark anything real. The Blackwood-Redford feud had been legendary, think Capulets and Montagues, but with sharper tongues and deeper pockets. Yet here they were, enemies to lovers in the most reluctant sense, their bitter vows sealing a pact that felt more like war than peace. Diana's smirk as she slipped the ring on Damien's finger was a masterpiece of defiance. Ever tried smiling through gritted teeth at a family reunion? That's the vibe, except with a crowd waiting for the emotional roller coaster to derail. And oh, it was just getting started. The ceremony ended with applause that felt more like a challenge than a celebration. Damien's mind raced. How had a business merger turned into this unexpected love, or at least, this unexpected mess? Diana, meanwhile, plotted her escape, already imagining the headlines when she ditched this unbreakable bond. But here's the kicker, sometimes, what you hate most sticks to you like glue. Picture that one friend who drives you nuts but somehow ends up at every party, same energy. Their forced smiles hid a truth neither could face, this was only Act 1. Guests whispered about the passionate tension, wondering if love versus hate would tip the scales. Damien adjusted his tie, avoiding Diana's piercing stare. She wasn't just a bride, she was a rival who'd outmaneuvered him once too often. The photographer snapped a shot, capturing what looked like a perfect couple, but it was a lie. Behind the lens, their home-divided future loomed, a battlefield waiting to be claimed. Ever wonder how two stubborn souls survive sharing a bathroom, let alone a life? That's the lesson they were about to learn, whether they liked it or not. The reception buzzed with gossip, a mix of shock and curiosity about this twist of fate. Diana sipped her champagne, plotting her next move, while Damien schmoozed with the suits, his charm masking a growing dread. This wasn't sweet love, it was a game neither had signed up for, yet here they were, playing it out. Imagine being handed a script you didn't write, say, joining a book club only to find they're reading War and Peace, when you'd rather skim a thriller. That's their vibe, reluctant, restless, and raw. Something was bound to give. As the night wore on, the crowd thinned, leaving just the two of them under the weight of their new reality. No one saw the storm brewing beneath their polished exteriors, well, almost no one. A nosy ant might have caught Diana's fleeting glance at Damien, or his subtle flinch when their hands brushed. It wasn't love, not yet, but it wasn't pure hate either. Think of it like that moment you realize your annoying coworker might actually have a point. It's a shock, a lesson, and a nudge toward what happens next. The real question: how long could they keep pretending this was just business? The ink wasn't even dry on the marriage certificate when the real fireworks began. Damien Blackwood leaned in to whisper his vows, but what came out was a shock, a hissed promise to make this forced marriage a living hell. Diana Redford didn't flinch. Oh no, she fired back with a lesson in venom, her words dripping with resentment sharper than any knife. You won't believe how two people could turn "I do" into a declaration of war, but that's exactly what happened next. No one expected sweet love from these enemies to lovers. This was bitter vows on steroids. The priest blinked, unsure if he'd just officiated a wedding or a duel. Their voices barely rose above a murmur, but the passionate tension could have lit the chapel on fire. Damien's "till death do us part" sounded more like a threat than a pledge. His rivalry turned romance with Diana a twisted game neither wanted to lose. She matched him, syllable for syllable, her gaze promising a slow-burn romance built on spite. Ever had to fake a smile while secretly plotting revenge, like at a family dinner when someone steals the last slice of pie? That's their vibe, except with rings and a crowd watching. Love versus hate wasn't just a question, it was their whole deal. Guests shifted in their pews, catching the bitter edge of this marriage of convenience. Diana's lips curled as she spoke, a masterclass in saying one thing while meaning another. Think of it like texting "I'm fine" when you're absolutely not. Damien's response was colder, a calculated jab that hit harder because it was so quiet. What happens next when two people vow to destroy each other in front of God and everybody? It's a twist of fate that'd make even the most hardened cynic lean in. Their unbreakable bond was forged in fury, not affection. The air grew thick with forbidden passion, though neither would admit it, not even to themselves. Damien adjusted his cufflinks, avoiding Diana's stare, while she smoothed her veil like she was prepping for battle. This wasn't sweet love, it was an emotional roller coaster with no brakes, careening toward chaos. Picture that moment you swear you'll never forgive someone, only to find them creeping into your thoughts anyway. That's the trap they were stepping into. Their words weren't just vows, they were weapons. And oh boy, they knew how to wield them. No one saw the cracks beneath their polished facades, but they were there, pulsing with unexpected love, or at least, its shadow. Diana's sharp tongue hit a flicker of something softer, a lesson she'd never copped to learning. Damien, meanwhile, masked his own turmoil with a smirk that didn't quite reach his eyes. Imagine promising to hate someone forever, like swearing off chocolate only to sneak a piece when no one's looking. It's a deal with the devil you can't unmake. Their vows weren't about unity, they were about survival. But survival's a funny thing, isn't it? The ceremony wrapped, and the crowd clapped, oblivious to the war they'd just witnessed. Damien's mind churned. How had a rivalry this deep twisted into something so personal? Diana, icy and composed, already plotted her next move. She'd make him regret every syllable. It's like when you argue with a friend and promise yourself you'll win the next round, except this was lifelong. Their bitter vows hung between them, a promise of more clashes to come. What happens when hate turns to desire, even just for a second? That's the spark no one saw coming. As they turned to face the world as husband and wife, the facade held, just barely. The photographer snapped a shot, capturing a moment that looked regal but felt like a cage. Diana's hand brushed Damien's arm, and he stiffened, a shock of contact neither expected. This wasn't the end of their story, it was the start of a home divided, a battlefield disguised as a marriage. Ever wonder how long you can keep up a fight before something gives? They were about to find out, and it wouldn't be pretty. The honeymoon was over before it even started. Scratch that, there wasn't even a honeymoon. Damien Blackwood stormed into their sprawling new home, tossing his keys like a gauntlet, while Diana Redford claimed the upstairs like it was her personal fortress. You won't believe how fast a marriage of convenience turned into a full-on war zone. It was a shock to no one who knew their history. What happens next when two enemies to lovers have to share a fridge? It's a lesson in survival, with passionate tension thick enough to choke on. Their unbreakable bond. More like an unbreakable stalemate. The kitchen became ground zero, a battlefield where every slammed cabinet screamed rivalry turned romance gone wrong. Diana's coffee mug sat untouched on Damien's side of the counter, pure provocation, and he retaliated by forgetting to tell her the Wi-Fi password. Ever tried living with someone you can't stand, like a roommate who blasts music at 3 a.m.? That's their vibe, but with bitter vows and a legal contract pinning them down. No one expected sweet love here, this was love versus hate in its rawest form. And yet, the silence between clashes hummed with something unspoken. Nights were the worst, each creak of the floorboards a reminder of their forced marriage. Damien sprawled on the couch, refusing to share the bed, while Diana paced her room, plotting her next move in this slow-burn romance. The walls seemed to soak up their resentment, turning the house into a monument of forbidden passion. Imagine swearing you'll never crack, like sticking to a diet while a chocolate cake stares you down. It's a deal with the devil, and they were both losing. Their home divided wasn't just a space, it was a state of mind. Mornings brought no relief, just more twists of fate to test their limits. Diana once caught Damien burning toast and smirked. Small victories mattered in this emotional roller coaster. He shot back by leaving the newspaper open to an article she'd hate, a silent jab sharper than words. It's like those petty wins you snag in an argument with a sibling, satisfying, but fleeting. What happens when hate turns to desire, even for a split second? That question lingered, unasked but unavoidable. The neighbors bought the act, though, they were good at that. From the outside, it was all polished smiles and, yes, dear, a perfect mask for their unexpected love, or lack thereof. Inside, pure chaos. Damien's late-night whiskey pours clinked against Diana's icy glares from across the hall. Ever put on a brave face at work while everything's falling apart at home? That's their trick, except the stakes were higher and the tension thicker. This wasn't sweet love, it was a game and neither could quit. Damien's friends joked he'd tamed the untamable, but they didn't see the war behind closed doors. Diana rearranged the living room just to mess with his head, couch here, TV there, pure spite in motion. She'd argue it was her house too, and he'd counter with a growl about boundaries. It's like when you rearrange a shared desk at work to claim your space, except this was personal. No one expected their rivalry to dig this deep, but it did. And somewhere in the mess, a spark waited to ignite. By week 2, the air buzzed with something beyond hate, a shock neither could name. Diana left a light on once, and Damien didn't complain, he just flicked it off with a grunt. Tiny truce or exhaustion? Hard to tell. Picture that moment you stop fighting a friend over something dumb, like who gets the armrest. It's not peace, but it's a shift. Their home divided was a pressure cooker, and what happens next wasn't war or surrender. It was something trickier, something they'd never see coming. It hit like a lightning bolt on a Tuesday night, catching them both off guard. Damien Blackwood slumped in the armchair, tie loosened, eyes distant after a brutal day. Vulnerability wasn't his style, but there it was. Diana Redford paused mid-stride, her usual sharp retort dying on her lips as she saw the crack in his armor. You won't believe how a single glance could shift a forced marriage from war to something else. It was a shock neither saw coming. What happens next when enemies to lovers stumble into unguarded territory? That's the lesson that'd rewrite their whole story. The rain hammered the windows, a perfect soundtrack to this twist of fate. Diana set her book down, something heavy like Jane Eyre, a nod to her own stubborn streak, and hesitated. Damien didn't snap at her silence, he just stared into his whiskey, lost. Ever catch someone you can't stand in a raw moment, like a coworker crying in the break room? That's the vibe, awkward, human, and thick with passionate tension. Their rivalry turned romance teetered on a razor's edge, and no one expected this. She could have walked away, God knows she'd done it before. But instead, Diana muttered, "Rough day." Soft, like she'd surprised herself. Damien's head jerked up, his smirk faint but real, you could say that. It wasn't sweet love, not by a long shot, but it was a crack in their bitter vows, a glimpse of unexpected love sneaking through. Think of that time you accidentally bond with someone over a shared gripe, it's not planned, but it sticks. This was their deal with the devil, and it felt dangerous. The air shifted, heavy with forbidden passion neither wanted to name. Diana perched on the couch, keeping her distance but not her guard. Progress, maybe? Damien swirled his glass, his voice low, you ever feel like you're drowning? It wasn't a question she'd prepped for, and her sometimes slipped out unguarded. Imagine confessing a fear to your worst rival, like admitting you hate public speaking to a debate champ. It's a risk. Their slow-burn romance flickered, faint but alive. No one saw this coming, least of all them. Their home divided had been a fortress of spite. Yet here they were, trading truths instead of barbs, an emotional roller coaster with no map. Diana's fingers tapped the cushion, restless, while Damien's gaze lingered a beat too long. Ever notice how silence can say more than a shouting match? That's where they landed, raw, real, and a little terrifying. Love versus hate blurred, and the lesson hit hard, vulnerability's a beast. He cracked a dry laugh, guess we're not so different. Diana's eyebrow arched, but she didn't argue, miracle of miracles. The storm outside raged on, mirroring the chaos within, a marriage of convenience suddenly less convenient and more, something. Picture that moment you realize your annoying neighbor's actually kinda cool, it's a shock, a twist, and a nudge toward what happens next. Their unbreakable bond wasn't love, not yet, but it wasn't just hate either. By the time the rain eased, they hadn't solved a damn thing, but the air felt lighter. Damien set his glass down, Diana grabbed her book, and they retreated to their corners, business as usual, right? Wrong. That spark, tiny as it was, lingered like a ghost, whispering of when hate turns to desire. It's like planting a seed you didn't mean to, nothing blooms yet, but the ground's shifted. What happens when two stubborn souls stop swinging long enough to see each other? That's the fight waiting around the corner. The truce didn't last, shocker, right? Damien Blackwood woke up the next day, jaw set, determined to bury that flicker of weakness under a mountain of pride. Diana Redford matched him, her icy stare back in full force, refusing to let that spark mean anything. You won't believe how fast they turned a moment of unexpected love into a full-on clash. No one expected anything less from these enemies to lovers. What happens next when two wills lock horns? It's a lesson in stubbornness that'd make a mule blush. Breakfast was a silent war, spoons clinking like battle drums. Damien buttered his toast with enough force to scare the bread, while Diana sipped her coffee like she was plotting his demise. Ever dig your heels in during an argument, like refusing to say sorry first even when you're wrong? That's their vibe, pure rivalry turned romance, fueled by bitter vows. Their forced marriage wasn't crumbling, it was hardening into a test of who'd crack first. Passionate tension. Off the charts. Neither blinked, not even when the stakes got petty. Diana forgot to tell Damien about a delivery. He misplaced her favorite mug. Childish, sure, but it was their deal with the devil. The air buzzed with forbidden passion, a slow-burn romance neither would cop to. Imagine staring down your rival in a game of chicken, both too proud to swerve. That's them, locked in an emotional roller coaster with no off switch. Love versus hate wasn't a choice, it was a standoff. Damien upped the ante, working late just to avoid her, his footsteps echoing in their home divided. Diana countered, blasting music he hated, think opera when he's all about rock, just to get under his skin. It's like when you crank the AC because your roommate hates the cold, small, but savage. No one expected this marriage of convenience to turn into a chess match, but here they were. What happens when hate turns to desire, but neither admits it? That's the twist of fate they danced around. The tension built like a storm, each move calculated to provoke without breaking. Diana once caught Damien staring, and instead of calling it out, she smirked and walked away. Victory. He fired back by fixing the sink she'd complained about, silent but smug. Ever try to one-up someone without saying a word, like acing a test they bombed? That's their game, unbreakable bond or unbreakable stubbornness, take your pick. Sweet love? Not yet, but the heat was rising. By Friday, the house hummed with unspoken challenges, a battlefield of wills dressed up as routine. Damien left a note, trash day tomorrow, neutral, but it felt like a dare. Diana scribbled back, I know, and left it on his desk, checkmate. Picture two kids refusing to blink in a staring contest, it's ridiculous, but you can't look away. Their bitter vows held firm, but that spark from before. It flickered, teasing what happens next. Who'd bend first? The weekend loomed, promising more of this dance, neither ready to call it quits. Damien's resolve was iron, Diana's was steel, two forces no one could break, or so they thought. Their rivalry wasn't just habit, it was armor, and peeling it off meant facing the shock of what lay beneath. It's like clinging to a grudge because it's all you know, comfortable, even when it burns. Something had to give, but when? That's the question simmering in the quiet. To the outside world, they were golden, picture-perfect and untouchable. Damien Blackwood flashed a grin at the charity gala, arm around Diana Redford, who sparkled in a gown that screamed power. But behind closed doors? You won't believe the shock of it, a marriage of convenience turned battlefield, no sweet love in sight. No one expected these enemies to lovers to sell the lie so well. What happens next when the mask slips? It's a lesson in how passion can hide in plain sight, even when it's laced with hate. The cameras clicked, capturing a moment that'd grace headlines, power couple goals. Inside, though, their home divided was a war zone. Damien's tie hit the floor the second they walked in, Diana's heels kicked off like weapons. Ever fake a smile for a photo while seething inside, like at a reunion with that one cousin? That's their gig, but with higher stakes and bitter vows. Their rivalry turned romance was a secret kept tight, a slow burn no one outside could guess. The fights weren't loud, oh no, they were worse, cold, cutting, and quiet. Diana rearranged Damien's desk, to help, smirking as he fumed. He accidentally locked her out of the Netflix account. It's like when your partner changes your playlist just to mess with you, petty, but personal. The world saw an unbreakable bond, but inside, it was forbidden passion locked in a cage. Love versus hate wasn't a battle, it was their whole damn life. Guests came over once, and the act was Oscar-worthy, Damien pouring wine, Diana laughing at his dry jokes. The second the door shut, though. Back to the emotional roller coaster, silence so thick it hurt. Imagine hosting a dinner party while secretly plotting revenge on your co-host, that's the vibe. No one saw the twist of fate brewing, the way their forced marriage teetered between collapse and something deeper. What happens when hate turns to desire behind the scenes? The facade held, but cracks showed in private, small, but real. Diana caught Damien humming her opera tunes once and froze. He shrugged it off, but the air shifted. Ever notice your rival picking up your habits, like stealing your slang? It's a shock, a nudge toward unexpected love, or at least, less hate. Their bitter vows still ruled, but those moments piled up, quiet threats to their perfect lie. The world kept watching, clueless. Damien's colleagues toasted their partnership, blind to the war at home. Diana's friends gushed over her luck, missing the passionate tension she buried under charm. They'd mastered the game, smile, nod, deflect, but it drained them dry. Picture juggling a job you hate while pretending it's your dream, it's exhausting, right? That's their deal with the devil, and the stakes kept climbing. Something had to break through the charade. By month's end, the strain was a living thing, pulsing behind their polished front. Damien lingered in the doorway once, watching Diana sip tea, silent, but not hostile. She didn't snap, just met his gaze, and the room held its breath. It's like when you and a frenemy share a look that says more than words, it's not peace, but it's close. What happens next when the war pauses? That night loomed large, ready to change the game. It started with a storm, cliché, sure, but fate doesn't care about originality. Damien Blackwood cursed as the power cut out, plunging their home into darkness, while Diana Redford fumbled for candles like it was her last stand. You won't believe how a single night flipped their forced marriage upside down. No one expected a spark from a blackout. What happens next when enemies to lovers get stuck together? It's a shock, a lesson, and a twist of fate all rolled into one wild ride. The flicker of candlelight softened the edges of their rivalry turned romance, accidentally, of course. Damien tripped over a rug, landing hard, and Diana's laugh slipped out before she could stop it, real, not mocking. Ever laugh at someone's fall and realize it's not mean, just human? That's the vibe, unexpected love sneaking in through the cracks. Their bitter vows felt miles away as he chuckled back, sprawled on the floor. Passionate tension shifted, just for a beat. She tossed him a candle, "Don't burn the place down," and he caught it, smirking, no promises. It wasn't sweet love, not yet, but it was a truce, fragile and unscripted. The storm raged outside, trapping them in this marriage of convenience turned something else. Imagine being snowed in with your least favorite person, only to find they're not so bad with the right lighting. That's them. Love versus hate took a backseat to something weirder, connection. They ended up on the couch, a safe distance apart, trading stories instead of jabs. Damien admitted he'd once crashed a bike into a ditch, dumb, but human. Diana confessed she'd flunked a cooking class despite her bravado. It's like swapping secrets with a rival over late-night coffee, risky, but it sticks. The slow-burn romance hummed, a deal with the devil neither signed up for. What happens when hate turns to desire in the dark? That's the question flickering between them. The power stayed off, but the air warmed, no candles needed. Diana's guard slipped when she yawned, and Damien didn't pounce, he just watched, quiet. Ever notice how silence can feel louder than a fight, like when you stop arguing and just sit there? That's their night, an emotional roller coaster hitting a new track. Forbidden passion wasn't the goal, but it crept in, uninvited and undeniable. Their unbreakable bond bent, just a little. By 2 a.m., the storm eased, but they didn't move, too caught up in this twist. Damien stretched, "Guess we're not dead yet," and Diana shot back, "Disappointing, huh?" Teasing, not cutting. Picture that moment you realize your frenemy's got your back. It's a shock, a shift, a spark. Their home divided felt less like a cage, more like a stage. Something big had changed, and the past was itching to crash the party. Morning loomed, promising a return to normal, or whatever passed for it. The candles burned low, casting long shadows over their accidental ceasefire. Neither said it, but they felt it. This night wasn't just a fluke. It's like finding a book you love after judging its cover, unexpected, but real. What happens next when old ghosts resurface? That's the test waiting to pounce, ready to shake their fragile truce. The calm didn't last, surprise, surprise. A letter slid under the door, yellowed and worn, addressed to Damien Blackwood in a scrawl he knew too well, an old rival's taunt. Diana Redford caught the shock in his eyes before he could hide it, and their truce cracked like thin ice. You won't believe how fast the past can derail a marriage of convenience. No one expected it to hit this hard. What happens next when enemies to lovers face their ghosts? It's a lesson in how passion can twist into pain. The note was short but brutal, details of a deal Damien had tanked years back, costing millions and pride. He crumpled it, but Diana snatched it first, her voice icy, "This why you hate me?" Turns out, her family had a hand in that mess. Rivalry turned romance had roots deeper than either knew. Ever dig up an old fight with a friend and realize it's worse than you thought? That's them, bitter vows reignited, slow burn romance on the ropes. She paced, fuming, while he leaned against the wall, arms crossed, classic standoff. The letter wasn't just paper, it was forbidden passion from a time when love versus hate ruled their worlds apart. Diana's dad had gloated over that win, Damien's silence had festered into revenge. Imagine finding out your partner's been holding a grudge you didn't even clock, that's the vibe. Their emotional roller coaster screeched to a halt, replaced by raw, old hurt. He finally spoke, voice low, "You knew." She didn't, but the accusation stung. Her family's sins weren't hers, right? Wrong. The unbreakable bond they'd stumbled into twisted under the weight of this twist of fate. It's like when a coworker spills a secret that changes everything, trust phrase fast. No one expected their forced marriage to dredge up this muck, but here it was. Sweet love. Buried under a decade of spite. Diana fired back, "You think I'd marry you knowing that?" Defensive, but shaky. Damien's laugh was bitter, "Wouldn't put it past you." The room shrank, thick with passionate tension and what happens when hate turns to desire then back again. Picture a reunion where everyone's fake nice until the truth spills, it's messy, real, and theirs. Unexpected love teetered, a deal with the devil neither could undo. The past didn't just knock, it kicked the door down, dragging skeletons into the light. Damien's old scars, lost deals, bruised ego, clashed with Diana's pride, her lineage a wound she hadn't picked. They'd built something fragile, but this was a shock that could break it. Ever try fixing a rift when the hurt's still fresh, like patching a tire mid-race? That's their fight, ugly, but alive. Lines were blurring, and fast. Night fell, and the argument faded into silence, not peace, just exhaustion. Damien stared at the crumpled letter, Diana traced the windowpane, lost in thought. Their rivalry wasn't dead, it was roaring, and yet, something lingered, a whisper of that night before. It's like when you can't let go of a grudge, but you don't want to either, complicated, right? What happens next when hate and love tangle tighter? That's the mess they'd have to face. The air stayed heavy, but something weird was brewing, call it a glitch in the matrix. Damien Blackwood caught himself watching Diana Redford chop vegetables, her focus oddly calming, and shook it off fast. She noticed him lingering in doorways, quiet instead of cutting. No one expected this shift in their forced marriage. You won't believe how lines blur when enemies to lovers stop swinging. What happens next? It's a shock, a lesson in how passion sneaks up slow. They didn't talk about the letter, smart move, maybe, but it hung there, a silent third wheel. Diana left coffee out once, black like he liked, and Damien didn't comment, he just drank it. Ever do something nice for someone you hate, like holding a door, and wonder why? That's their vibe, rivalry turned romance creeping in, bitter vows softening at the edges. Love versus hate wasn't a straight line anymore, it zigzagged. The couch became neutral ground, a ceasefire zone where they'd land after long days. Damien flipped through channels, Diana scrolled her phone, normal, almost, but thick with unspoken tension. It's like sitting next to a rival at a bar, both too tired to bicker, awkward, but not awful. Their slow-burn romance wasn't loud, it was a whisper of unexpected love, a deal with the devil they hadn't signed. Forbidden passion? Maybe, but quieter now. She caught him grinning at a dumb ad once, and instead of snarking, she laughed too, small, but real. He fixed her laptop when it crashed, no fanfare, just, it's done. Picture that moment you help a frenemy without gloating, it's a twist of fate, a shift you can't unfeel. Their emotional roller coaster slowed, letting sweet love peek through the cracks. What happens when hate turns to desire and sticks around? That's the question neither asked. The house felt less divided, more shared, subtle, but there. Diana's books piled up on Damien's shelf, his jacket hung by her coats. Ever notice how your stuff mixes with someone else's and it's not a big deal until it is? That's them, unbreakable bond or not, something was rooting deep. No one saw this coming, least of all them, their marriage of convenience was rewriting itself. Lines blurred, and it scared them silly. By week's end, the silence wasn't cold, just heavy with what-ifs. Damien tossed a night her way, casual but soft. Diana nodded back, sleep well. It's like when you stop fighting a current and just float, simple, but seismic. Passionate tension didn't vanish, it morphed, teasing what happens next. Their bitter vows still echoed, but now they clashed with something new. Was it still hate? Tough call. The past lingered, but it wasn't king anymore, something else was nudging it aside. They moved around each other like planets, orbiting but not crashing, yet. The shock of it hit hard. This wasn't the plan, but it was happening. Imagine realizing your enemy's not the villain you painted, unsettling, right? That's where they stood, teetering on an edge. Someone was bound to notice soon. It snuck up quiet, then hit like a freight train, jealousy, raw and messy. Damien Blackwood froze at a party, watching some slick suit chat up Diana Redford, her laugh too easy, too real. No one expected him to care, not even him, but the shock of it burned. What happens next when enemies to lovers feel the sting? You won't believe how fast unspoken feelings flipped the script. This forced marriage wasn't supposed to care who flirted with who, until it did. He played it cool, sipping his drink, but his grip tightened, classic tell. Diana caught his stare across the room, and her smile faltered, a flicker of something new. Ever feel your stomach twist when someone you hate gets too cozy with someone else, like a friend picking a new bestie? That's the vibe. Rivalry turned romance crashing into forbidden passion. Love versus hate got muddy, and Damien didn't like it one bit. She danced with the guy, nothing serious, just spins and laughs, but it gnawed at him. Damien ditched his glass, weaving through the crowd, muttering, "She's mine, whoa, where'd that come from?" It's like claiming the last slice of pizza you don't even want, except he did, and that was the twist of fate. Their slow-burn romance wasn't just simmering, it was boiling over. Bitter vows be damned, he hated losing her light. Diana felt it too, though she'd never say it, stubborn to the core. She ditched her dance partner, brushing past Damien with a "What's your deal?" Sharp, but curious. He shrugged, nothing, but his eyes screamed otherwise. Picture that moment you catch your rival caring and can't call it out, awkward, right? Their emotional roller coaster spiked, a deal with the devil neither could dodge. Sweet love? Not yet, but close. Later, by the bar, he leaned in, voice low, "You looked happy out there." She smirked, jealous. Teasing, but testing. He didn't bite, just stared, and the air crackled with passionate tension. Ever dodge a question that cuts too deep, like, "You good," when you're not? That's them, unbreakable bond bending under jealousy's weight. What happens when hate turns to desire and won't let go? That's the fire they danced around. She stayed close after that, chatting with him instead, small win, big shift. Damien relaxed, cracking a joke about the guy's tie, and Diana's laugh was his this time. It's like when you steal a moment from someone else and it feels right, petty, but real. Their marriage of convenience wasn't convenient anymore, it was personal. Unexpected love crept in, and losing each other suddenly wasn't an option. The ride home was quiet, but charged, neither admitted a thing. Diana hummed softly, Damien tapped the wheel, stealing glances. The shock of it lingered, they didn't want to lose this, whatever this was. Picture realizing your frenemies your anchor, scary, huh? That's where they landed, raw and rattled. Something bigger was coming to test it all. Trouble didn't knock, it barged in, loud and ugly. A late-night call jolted Damien Blackwood awake. A rival firm was tanking their stocks, a calculated hit tied to their old feud. Diana Redford sat up too, catching the shock in his voice. no one expected this twist of fate to hit their forced marriage. You won't believe how fast enemies to lovers became allies. What happens next when survival's on the line? It's a lesson in how passion can flip from hate to clutch. The living room turned war room, papers strewn, coffee brewing, chaos with a pulse. Damien barked numbers, Diana scrawled plans, her mind razor-sharp despite the hour. Ever team up with someone you'd rather punch, like a group project with your nemesis? That's the vibe. Rivalry turned romance sidelined for an unbreakable bond. Love versus hate didn't matter, beating this did. Their bitter vows. On hold, replaced by necessity. The threat was real, lawsuits, leaks, the works, aimed at their shared empire. Damien's contacts dried up, Diana's charm pulled strings he couldn't reach, teamwork, who knew? It's like when your rival knows the cheat code you don't, infuriating, but clutch. Their slow-burn romance kicked into gear, a deal with the devil forged in crisis. Forbidden passion simmered, but survival trumped all. By dawn, they'd mapped a counterstrike, risky, but solid. Diana's "we've got this" wasn't soft, but it hit Damien hard. He nodded, "Yeah, we do." Picture two generals forced to share a trench, tense, but tight. The emotional roller coaster leveled out, sweet love peeking through the grit. What happens when hate turns to desire under fire? That's the shock they couldn't dodge. The days blurred, calls, meetings, late nights shoulder to shoulder. Damien once grabbed her hand mid-panic, a reflex. She didn't pull away, just squeezed back. Ever lean on someone you swore you'd never need, like a friend you'd written off? That's them, unexpected love growing roots fast. Their marriage of convenience wasn't fake anymore, it was a lifeline. Passionate tension morphed into something fiercer. They won a small battle, stocks stabilized, leaks plugged, but the war wasn't over. Diana slumped against Damien on the couch, exhausted. He didn't move, just let her stay. It's like crashing after a fight you didn't lose, relief, raw and real. No one saw this coming, their home divided now a bunker. The threat still loomed, pushing them closer to a breaking point. The enemy circled, but they stood tighter, unshaken, almost. Damien muttered, "We're not done," and Diana's, "Not even close," sealed it. The shock of relying on each other lingered, a twist that rewrote their rules. Imagine finding your rivals your rock, wild, right? That's where they were, teetering on something huge. The real test was barreling toward them. It all boiled over on a Friday, messy, loud, inevitable. Damien Blackwood slammed a report down, "We can't keep dodging this. Not the stocks, them." Diana Redford spun, eyes blazing, "What's this, huh? No backing down, not now." You won't believe how a forced marriage hits a breaking point. No one expected this shock to crack them open. What happens next when enemies to lovers can't hide anymore? It's a lesson in how passion cuts both ways. The room shrank, their voices echoing off the walls, raw, unfiltered. Damien growled, "I'm sick of pretending," and Diana shot back, "Then stop." Years of rivalry turned romance spilling out. Ever scream at someone because you care too much, like a friend who won't listen? That's the vibe, bitter vows shattering, love versus hate in a cage match. The emotional roller coaster hit its peak, and it hurt. He paced, "You think I wanted this? You?" She laughed, sharp, bitter, "Oh, please, I'm the one stuck here." But her voice cracked, and his did too, "I don't hate you, damn it." It's like when you yell at your dog for chewing your shoe and end up hugging it, messy, real. Their slow-burn romance wasn't slow anymore, it was a deal with the devil breaking free. Forbidden passion roared, undeniable. Diana froze, then what? Soft, scared, a dare. Damien stepped closer, "You know what, no smirk, just truth." The air buzzed with unexpected love, their marriage of convenience a lie they'd outgrown. Picture confessing a crush to your rival mid-fight, wild, right? That's them, unbreakable bond snapping into focus. What happens when hate turns to desire and won't quit? They were finding out. She shoved him, you don't get to say that. Anger masking panic. He grabbed her wrists, too late, steady, sure. It's like when you fight someone you need, knowing you're screwed either way, raw, human. Their bitter vows crumbled, sweet love clawing through the wreckage. Passionate tension didn't just spark, it exploded, a twist of fate they couldn't dodge. The silence after was deafening, breaths heavy, eyes locked. Damien let go, I'm done running, and Diana whispered, me too, surrender, not defeat. Ever hit a wall with someone and realize it's a door? That's their breaking point, painful, but alive. No one saw this coming, their home divided now a crucible. The choice loomed, loud and clear. They stood there, wrecked but real, the fight draining out of them. The shock of it settled, this wasn't hate, not anymore, it was something bigger. Diana's hand brushed his, tentative, he didn't pull away. It's like when you stop battling and just breathe, simple, seismic. What happens next when pride's on the line? That's the leap one of them had to take. The dust settled, but the air stayed thick, decision time. Damien Blackwood leaned against the counter, staring at nothing, while Diana Redford paced, her steps a restless drumbeat. No one expected a forced marriage to hit this fork, you won't believe how quiet the shock felt. What happens next when enemies to lovers face the truth? It's a lesson in how passion can demand more than you've got. Pride or love, who'd blink first? He broke the silence, voice rough, we can't keep doing this. Diana stopped, doing what? Defiant, but her eyes begged for it. Ever dodge a question you know the answer to, like, you okay, when you're not? That's the vibe, rivalry turned romance at a crossroads. Their bitter vows mocked them, but the slow-burn romance screamed louder. Love versus hate wasn't a fight, it was a choice. Damien's jaw tightened, pretending it's nothing. She scoffed, you're the king of that, sharp, but shaky. He stepped closer, not anymore, raw, unguarded, a deal with the devil laid bare. It's like admitting you're wrong mid-argument, terrifying, but real. Forbidden passion pulsed, their emotional roller coaster teetering on collapse. Sweet love waited, if he'd just grab it. She crossed her arms, then say it. A dare, a plea, all in one. Damien hesitated, pride's a beast, right? Then, I don't want to lose you. Boom. Picture confessing to your rival you're scared they'll walk, wild, huh? That's him, unexpected love spilling out, breaking their unbreakable bond wide open. What happens when hate turns to desire and you own it? That's the risk he took. Diana's breath hitched, you're serious? Soft, stunned. He nodded, dead. She could have run, pride's her armor too, but she didn't. It's like when you're offered a hand after a fall and take it, simple, seismic. Their marriage of convenience wasn't convenient anymore, it was a twist of fate begging for truth. Passionate tension didn't fade, it deepened, daring her to match him. She swallowed, I don't either, quiet, but there, her walls cracking. Damien's relief was palpable, a smirk breaking through, took you long enough. Ever laugh after a fight because it's all you've got left? That's them, raw, real, alive. No one saw this coming, bitter vows traded for something truer. The choice wasn't easy, but it was theirs. The room felt bigger, lighter, pride bruised, but not dead. They stood close, not touching, just breathing it in. The shock of admitting it lingered, this was love, buried under years of spite. It's like finding gold in a junk pile, unexpected, but yours. What happens next when you let go? That's the edge they'd finally crossed. It happened slow, then all at once, like a dam breaking. Damien Blackwood reached for Diana Redford's hand, tentative, and she didn't pull back, first time for everything. You won't believe how a forced marriage flipped so fast, no one expected this shock to feel so right. What happens next when enemies to lovers drop the act? It's a lesson in how passion can hide in plain sight, waiting to breathe. They sank onto the couch, a ceasefire that wasn't forced, natural, almost. Damien's "we're idiots" drew a laugh from her. Speak for yourself, light, real. Ever let go of a grudge and feel the weight lift, like ditching a backpack after a hike? That's the vibe, rivalry turned romance melting into sweet love. Their bitter vows faded, love versus hate finally tipping the scale. She leaned into him, head on his shoulder, small, but seismic. He draped an arm around her, should have done this sooner, dry, but warm. It's like when you stop fighting a friend and just sit there, simple, but deep. Their slow burn romance wasn't slow anymore, it was a deal with the devil paid off. Forbidden passion turned unexpected love, and it fit like a glove. The silence wasn't heavy, just full, alive with what they'd buried. Diana murmured, all that fighting for this, and Damien's, yeah, worth it, sealed it. Picture finding a song you love after skipping it for years, wild, right? That's them, their emotional roller coaster landing soft. Their marriage of convenience wasn't a cage, it was a key they'd finally turned. They talked, really talked, about dumb stuff, her bad cooking, his bike crash. Laughter spilled out, a shock after so much noise. Ever swap stories with someone you thought you'd hate forever? That's their night, unbreakable bond forged anew. Passionate tension didn't vanish, it softened, rooting deep. What happens when hate turns to desire and stays? That's the truth they owned. Morning crept in, sunlight spilling over them, still there, still close. Damien stretched, guess we're stuck now, and Diana's good was all he needed. It's like when you realize home's not a place, but a person, quiet, real. No one saw this coming, love under layers of spite. Their home divided. History now. The past didn't disappear, it just lost its teeth. They'd fought, bled, hated, but here they were, letting go. The shock of it hit, this was always there, waiting. Imagine finding your rivals your match, crazy, huh? That's where they landed, raw and ready. What happens next when hate's just a memory? That's the strength they'd build on. The shift settled in, solid as stone, hate was out, love was king. Damien Blackwood brewed coffee, sliding a mug to Diana Redford with a grin, no war, just them. No one expected a forced marriage to bloom like this, you won't believe how the shock faded into peace. What happens next and enemies to lovers rewrite their story? It's a lesson in how passion can heal what it once broke. They moved easy now, like dancers who'd learned the steps. Diana teased, you're not half bad at this, and Damien's, you're welcome, was all swagger, no bite. Ever realize your rival's just a mirror, not a monster, like a sibling you fought but loved? That's the vibe, rivalry turned romance now sweet love. Love versus hate. Love won, hands down. The house hummed, no longer a battlefield, just home. Damien fixed a shelf, Diana cooked, badly, but he ate it anyway, laughing. It's like when you stop competing and start building, simple, strong. Their slow burn romance hit its peak, an unbreakable bond no deal with the devil could touch. Forbidden passion. Old news, unexpected love ruled now. They dug into the past, not to fight, but to understand. Diana admitted her family's gloating stung her too, Damien owned his grudge was half blind. Picture unpacking a feud with a friend over beers, raw, real. Their emotional roller coaster leveled out, bitter vows replaced by truth. What happens when hate turns to desire and keeps going? That's the strength they found. Outsiders noticed, friends blinked, you too. And they just shrugged. The gala masks were off, this was them, flaws and all. Ever shock people by dropping the act, like showing up to work in sweats? That's their flex, marriage of convenience turned masterpiece. Passionate tension softened into something truer, a twist of fate they'd earned. Evening stretched long, quiet but full, Damien strumming a guitar, Diana reading nearby. She'd nudge him, play something good, and he'd smirk, this is good. It's like when you find your rhythm with someone, effortless, deep. No one saw this coming, hate misunderstood, love unstoppable. Their home divided. A myth they'd busted. The realization hit hard but soft, they'd never been enemies, just lost. Every fight, every jab, had built this, wild, right? The shock of it faded, leaving clarity. Imagine finding your rivals your soulmate, nuts, but true. That's them, stronger than hate, rooted in love. What happens next? Whatever they wanted. It wrapped up wilder than anyone could have dreamed, a fairy tale flipped on its head. Damien Blackwood stood on their porch, arm around Diana Redford, watching the sunset like it was theirs. You won't believe how a forced marriage dodged the nightmare, no one expected this shock of an ending. What happens next when enemies to lovers rewrite the script? It's a lesson in how passion can turn chaos into gold. The world still buzzed, gossip, gasps, but they didn't care. Diana's "told you we'd make it" drew a laugh from Damien, barely, dry, but warm. Ever beat the odds with someone you bet against, like acing a test you didn't study for? That's the vibe, rivalry turned romance, now sweet love. Love versus hate. Hate never stood a chance. Their days flowed, messy, real, perfect. Damien built a garden, Diana planted herbs, teamwork, who'd have thought? It's like when you turn a junk room into a sanctuary, hard, but worth it. Their slow burn romance hit its stride, an unbreakable bond no deal with the devil could break. Forbidden passion. Just a memory, unexpected love owned the stage. Friends dropped by, jaws dropped, this is you now. And they grinned. The past was a ghost, powerless, every fight had forged this. Picture a movie where the villains win by loving, wild, right? That's them, their emotional roller coaster, a love story no one saw coming. Bitter vows. Dust, passionate tension, now a spark that built, not burned. They'd laugh about it sometimes, how they'd plotted escape, not this. Diana's "we're nuts" met Damien's "best kind," truth in spades. Ever look back at a fight and see the gift in it, like a storm that clears the air? That's their ending, marriage of convenience turned epic. What happens when hate turns to desire and writes the finale? That's the twist of fate they lived. The house stood proud, not divided, but whole, theirs. Photos lined the walls, awkward early shots to now, all grins. It's like when you flip through old texts and see the arc, raw, real. No one expected this, a nightmare flipped into their greatest hit. Their love was loud, quiet, everything, stronger than hate, built to last. They didn't plan it, no script, just them, stumbling into the best ending. The shock of it stuck, this was always the path, hidden under rivalry. Imagine a horror flick turning rom-com, nuts, huh? That's their story, wild, true, theirs. What happens next? Only they'd decide, and that was the beauty of it. And there you have it, Damien and Diana's wild ride from enemies swearing bitter vows to a love no one saw coming. What a twist, right? Their story proves hate's just a mask sometimes, hiding something deeper if you're brave enough to peel it back. So, what hit you hardest? That first spark in the dark, the jealousy that cracked their walls, or the moment they finally let go? Drop a like if you're still reeling, and share your favorite part below. Did you expect that ending, or were you rooting for a different finale? Hit that follow button too, more epic tales are coming, and you won't want to miss what's next. Concluso, who could have guessed that two rivals bound by bitter vows would rewrite their own fate? Damien and Diana's journey from enemies to lovers proves that even the fiercest hate can melt into a love that defies every expectation. If their story taught us anything, it's that no one should underestimate the power of a twist of fate, or the heat of a passionate tension simmering beneath the surface. Now, we want to hear from you. Did you see this ending coming? Were you team #slowburnromance or team #bittervows? Smash that like button if you're rooting for Damien and Diana's unbreakable bond, share this video with someone who loves a good emotional roller coaster, and don't forget to subscribe. Because trust us, you won't believe what's coming next.